duality took something that I wanted to be taken from me. Not being seen, maybe not being genuine, not being all the way honest. But honestly, I was okay with it. I was okay with it because, again, I didn't want the lines to be crossed. So if that meant me being not as genuine, if that meant that there was some shrouded anonymity around me that the gay world or the church world, these different worlds were looking at me and kind of curious, like, why is he hiding that? I didn't care. I didn't care because as long as things aren't crossing, then it kind of gives me a level of peace and, no anxiety. But as soon as these start to cross, it's like, okay, where are we going with all of this? I was a fun child, loved to say hi to people, very friendly. So I would play with the neighbors' kids and we would go roller skating. One day, one of the boys basically pushed me because he didn't like me. Looking back, I think that he bullied me because I was different. At the time, I didn't know it was part of being gay. I thought it was, I'm Canadian, I'm polite. The way I was raised was different than the American kids. We had to say please, I say pardon me, I say excuse me, I smiled, I was really nice. Sex was the furthest thing from my mind, so there was no thought of gay, straight, or anything. I just loved people. I loved life, and that was it. And also, I grew up in church, so that wasn't part of my thinking. The first time that I even thought about gay was in junior high school. I had a kid that used to wait for me every day at the front of the school, and he would say, "Hey, gay, gay. Hey, gay, gay." And this would continue for a while, every morning, and I would ignore it. Then one day during lunch, I was standing on a planter and there was a kid that was running towards me. And I thought, well, surely he's gonna stop. He's running pretty fast, right? And he didn't stop. And he ran and he hit me, and the force hit me so hard, I flew off the planter and I flew into the back of a brick wall and landed on the floor. And they had to call my mom to come and pick me up to make sure that I didn't have a concussion. And so it was then that I realized, oh, I'm being bullied for being gay, but I can't be gay because I grew up in church and I'm saved and I'm not gay. Why would I be gay? My mom didn't do anything about the bullying. One, I believe she's Caribbean. And her idea was, you need to man up and toughen up. You're just being sensitive. You're just being sensitive and you just need to toughen up. It's nothing. So it was a combination of she didn't believe me, but also that she felt like I just needed to toughen up and I was being soft. And being soft is not acceptable, in the Black culture, in the Caribbean culture. And looking back on it, I think also there was the inkling that she thought I was gay. And so she thought she was doing the best thing at the time by not doing anything. But that drove me into a depression, and it actually drove me to be more involved in plays and choirs, and that's where I became deeply involved in music, kind of like a way of protection. Because if I sang, if I did my music and my talents, no one could hit me up about being gay. Because I was busy doing music, I was busy doing singing, and my gifts and my talents were bigger than my sexuality. So I was able to protect and cover myself under that umbrella, if you will. Now I'm 18, I'm free, I'm still going to church. And when I say we're heavily church, I was so churchy that none of the Bible studies on college campus were good enough. So I started my own Bible study. That's how churchy I was, real judgy. And when I got to college, they started hiring me to sing at the different graduations and events. And those gigs got me noticed at a graduation. The lady finds me, she comes to me after the graduation, and I end up in what's called a production deal. and I end up in this group and we're recording music. Like, I've hit the jackpot. Like, this is it. This is what I've been grooming myself for. This is what I've been working for. This is what I've been studying. This is it. Let's go. So we're doing the recording and everything, and it's an R&B group, so we're talking about love. I don't know anything about love. Now we're talking about love with the woman. It's not giving, right? And so one guy was like, Daryl, like, you sure you gay? You ain't never had no pussy? And I'm like, I'm saved. You know, like, that was always my answer. I was so deep, my nickname in the group was Choir Boy. In the R&B world, in the music world, at that time, being gay was like, no. Even if you were gay, you couldn't be gay. You could not acknowledge it. You couldn't say it. You couldn't have a lover or anything or be associated with it, or else you were X'd out of it, right? So I left the group. And around that time, I came out to my mom. I purposely told her in the car so that whatever shell shock was going in, she could just be shell shocked in the passenger seat. So I told her in the car, and it was a quiet ride home. We didn't talk for a few days. Literally, we live in the same house. We didn't talk for a few days, whatever. And she calls me and she sits me down and she goes, Daryl. My mom had an English accent. She lived in England for 20 years. Daryl. This is deep breath. This is all going on. Daryl. I prayed for the day that this would never happen. These are her words verbatim. You have chosen a dangerous lifestyle. I went through a lot. I went through a lot mentally because I just felt like I had let everyone down. You know, I moved out and I went into one of the darkest depressions I've been in my life because I felt like I had just failed everybody. I've tried to commit suicide a couple of times. I was really, really depressed because like now my sexuality is in play. I can't talk to anybody about it. And that's when I went into my wild phase, as I call it. Turn 21, go to the club, drugs, partying, just kind of doing whatever I want. I had grown up in church, so I was conservative. So like now there's this place where it's like, what? I can do what? Let's go. So that's what made me give in, but I don't even know if I necessarily gave in. I just found a place where this part of me could be free. I was in a space where I would go to the clubs, I would go to work, and go to church, all at the same time. I was definitely split. Growing up in church, a lot of Black men live in duality. A lot of Black men are pastors and are gay, are ministers and still go to the club, are DL and married. You know, I think duality might be a part of the culture. I was in a group, I was in a choir singing, and we had went to the church. I'm young Daryl, so I'm just smiling. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just excited to sing. So I'm at this musical, I'm excited. And I go to the bathroom. I gotta go to the bathroom real quick, wash my hands. So there's another guy that comes in, and just to give a little description, tall, over 6 feet, bald, very handsome. I walk in the bathroom, I'm washing my hands, and he's like, oh, are you here? Are you performing? Or what are you doing here tonight? I'm like, oh, I'm singing with such and such. Yeah, that's me, I'm singing with him. He's like, oh, okay, that's nice. I'm like, oh, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I'm a pastor in my choir, singing stuff like that. I'm like, oh, that's great, that's really nice. Not thinking anything of it. And he turns to me and goes, so do you want to go on a date tonight? And of course, what do I say? Yes, yeah, I'll go on a date with you. So concert goes, concert ends. My ass gets in my car, drives 2 hours to where this man lives. Because what do you do but say yes to a stranger? Not only is he a pastor, but like he's a musician who's played for like the most famous gospel artists that I can think of. I drive down, the date is amazing. The date's amazing. It's cold. He puts the jacket around me. This is a pastor. I can't even believe this is happening. Let me just say, I can't believe this is happening because I'm like, he's a perfect gentleman. Takes me out to dinner. I spend the night at his house. So I pull up to the house, right? And we pull up to the driveway. And I'm like, oh, this is nice. I said, which apartment is yours? Because there was so much going on. I was like, where's your apartment? He's like, oh, that's my house. So I'm like, oh, okay, all right. So he gives me a tour of this house. Like there's a back house with the studio. There's the living room here. It's a lot going on. And I spend the night. What happened that night is between myself, him, and the Lord. And we get up the next day, right? I get up, get dressed, and I go to his church. I go to his church and act like nothing happened. And then his members come back to his house. I'm hanging out with the members, like we're just kicking it, like I wasn't just like all up in the bedroom. And when I left, I was like, yeah, we're not doing that. I'm gay over here. I'm professional work over here. I'm church over here. So how did I do it? It was like, I just did it because I don't want my gay world going into my church world. No. And I don't want my work world going into my church world. And I didn't have, I think honestly, I was very adamant about them not crossing because if they crossed, then, the church world would see my gay part and know that I cuss a little more than I do usually. And the work part would see the church part of the charismatic and speaking in tongues. And honestly, I didn't want them mixing. I didn't want people to see this part of me. The church I grew up in, right? The pastor's daughter. She goes to college and she comes back gay. Good for you, girl. Good. She asked me to help her come out to her parents. And I'm like, are you kidding me? No. Like, you want me, regular Daryl, to help you, the pastor's daughter, come out to her parents, the pastor and the first lady? I said, girl, are you trying to get me killed? That's what I said to her. I'm like, why would I help you come out to my pastor? That doesn't even make any sense. And she was full on out. And looking back on it, mad respect for her. Because she left for a summer, went to college, came back, had the rainbow beads on the back of her head, had a rainbow shirt. And at the time I was younger, so it's like, yeah, I'm gay, but I'm not gay like, I'm compartmentalized gay. So when I'm at church, I'm Daryl at church. Now at the club, you can talk to me all day about being gay, but when I'm at church, it's a no-go. So looking back on it, it's like, you want me to break my rule and be gay at church for you? I said no. I never saw her again, but I was just kind of like, no, we can't go there. We can't do that. Living in duality was a lie, but it was a necessary lie at the time, and it made sense for that to be my truth at the time because of my upbringing, because of what I believe. I think it was a form of protection. The thought of the unknown, of what's gonna happen if people see this, or what's gonna happen if people know this, like, just gave me the worst anxiety. So the fact that I kept it from not happening gave me peace, if that makes sense. So it wasn't hard because I had peace. And even if that meant that there was a part of me that I was sacrificing, if I had peace, I'm like, we're good with this. What I gave up was getting to know me. What I gave up was finding out what I like, taking the time to develop and go, you know what, I really don't like this, or this is what I do like, because I lived so much for other people that even in my personality, I was being who I thought people wanted me to be. I was saying what I thought people wanted me to say. I was manning up. I was being more manly. I was being more this, more that, because I thought this is how I should be. I was looking at other people and trying to develop myself and be like the others, right? So what I lost was I lost me.